which is
Sorry.
Philida, Hazeldale, Minnehaha, and out to Five Corners, Salmon Creek, too, I might add. Welcome to the Clark County Schools Advisory Council. Today's December 5th, Thursday, and it's 2 p.m. So welcome so much. I missed the previous meeting. I believe I had a sick child, so I was not privy to all the conversation that took place at the previous meeting, because I'm seeing a note that says review and adopt April 2024 meeting notes.
Yeah. Before we get there, Councilor Belcut, we have a lot of new people who have never been to this meeting before from various school districts and such. Would you be okay if we had everyone introduce themselves just so everyone knows who's here?
Yes,
And then we can
fantastic. Let's make introductions.
Okay. All right, and I can help just call on people because I've got everyone's names in front of me.
Thanks, Jenna. Go for it.
Okay, so I'll start with folks in the room, and well, I'm Jenna. I work with Clark County Community Planning, your coordinator with my colleague Amy Wooten here for this meeting. But I'll just pass it to my right, and we can go around the room with introductions to start.
Okay, well, I'm glad I sat to your right then. I get to start. I'm Dr. Christine Maloney. I'm the superintendent of Evergreen Public Schools. And obviously my first time here, so thank you.
My name is Travis Drake. I'm Director of Secondary for Battleground Public Schools.
Isla Westergaard. I'm the representative from Neighborhood Associations within the Council of Clark County.
Asha Riley, Woodland Public School Superintendent.
Although my picture said Mark Berthel, this is actually Stacy Brown from the Woodland School District. I was trying to figure out how to fix it, and I could not.
We will do that for you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Hey, everybody. My name is Jordan Bogie. I am a senior policy analyst. I support the county council and the county manager's office.
All right. And online, I'm just going to go down the list on my screen. Brett, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Brett Blechschmidt, Associate Superintendent for Vancouver Public Schools.
Welcome. And Chris?
Hi, everybody. Chris Griffith, the Assistant Superintendent with the Ridgefield School District.
Okay. And let's see. Jamie?
Hi, I'm Jamie Searcy, and I'm with Clark County Public Health with the School Health and Safety Program.
Welcome. And let's see. Jose?
Hello, I'm Jose Alvarez. I'm the Land Use Program Manager here in Clark County.
Joshua?
Hi, I'm Joshua Robertson. I'm the Director of Curriculum Instruction at Hawkinson Schools.
Kevin?
Hi, Kevin Jolma, Executive Director of Facilities, Battleground School District.
Kimberly Walker-Norton?
Everyone, Kimberly Walker-Norton, Clark County Public Health. I'm the Community Health Protections Program Manager and the Program Manager for School Health and Safety Program.
And Kristen?
Hi, I'm Kristen Lessig, and I'm the Academic Director for the College of Education at Washington State University.
And Les?
Hi, I'm Les Brown. I'm the Director of Communications, Technology, and Operations for the Washougal School District.
And Mike Nerland?
Hello, everybody. Mike Nerland. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning at ESD 112.
And Steve Marshall?
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Marshall. I'm the Superintendent of the Hawkinson School District.
Wonderful. And Chair Mendeji, can you hear us yet?
He can hear, or no, we can hear him, but he can't hear us, and I think that he's still having some issues, so he sends his apologies. He was going to try one more time, and then if that didn't work out, maybe we'll just have Councilor Belcott continue chairing.
Sounds good. All right, and then I apologize if I missed anyone. Please feel free to jump in and introduce yourself if you have not done so already.
Jenna, this is Leanne Bremer with Miller Nash. I represent the Clark County School Districts in their capital facilities planning and impact fee work.
Wonderful. Thanks, Leanne. Sorry for missing you.
That's all right.
Okay. All right, Councilor Belcott, I think that was everyone who we've got. So I think we can move on to looking for a motion to approve the notes from the spring meeting.
Who's here? Yeah, I know.
Oh, sorry about that. I was on mute. Can I get I'll approve the review and adoption of the April 2024 meeting notes. Can I get a second on that?
Is Jordan the only one who was here?
Yeah.
I'm usually a member of this committee.
I think there were a couple of you who, maybe not in the room here, but at least online, who were at that meeting.
Right.
I believe I was. They all run together, so I'll second that.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
I heard one aye. And I didn't hear any opposition. Okay. The motion carries. All right, moving down. Janet, can you move the screen down on the agenda, please? Okay, next up is legislative priorities, and Jordan will be presenting.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. So wanted to give a bit of an update on the County Council's legislative priorities. And before I did that, though, I know we've got a lot of newer folks in the room, so I wanted to just take a step back really briefly and just talk a little bit about, like, what it is that the county does. I know we all kind of got our own particular vantage points, so just thought that might be a little bit helpful in terms of framing up where we're going from here. And so, really the key roles of the county are providing public safety, infrastructure, social services. So that's, the sheriff's office, that is the jail, that is the court system, so Superior Court and District Court. Anything that's felony level is going to be handled by the county. There are some, Battleground has a municipal court, Kamas-Washougal does as well, but for the most part, any of the court systems, court proceedings that are happening in the county are run by the county. So public safety services, that's 70% of what our budget is public safety in the county. We also do a lot of infrastructure work, so anytime you've got a county road, county infrastructure, clean water, things like that, permitting and development, especially in the unincorporated, you think, we think about particularly City of Vancouver. There's a lot of area that you think is the City of Vancouver. It's not technically the City of Vancouver. It is the urban growth area. It's the urbanized portion of the county that eventually will be annexed into the city, but is not yet. So in a lot of ways, the county is acting like a city. In some ways, we're kind of unique because we have such a large urban growth area in the county that makes us different than a lot of other counties in the state. For the most part, counties shrink, cities grow. That's kind of how the law is set up. That's how the system anticipates things happening, and we're kind of in this in-between space with the county right now, where we've got a lot of urban areas that the county is managing, and so that's something that we're working on there. And then as part of that, the county has also helped provide social services, so a lot of the granting that comes through from the state or federal government for homeless services or different like mental health funding and things like that we receive. The county is not always providing those services directly, but is often being a pass-through in terms of navigating funding and working that way. So I just wanted to give kind of a sense of what that looks like for the county, just because I know that sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between like what a city does when they're providing some of their direct services versus what's happening in the county. Like a lot of other local governments, I know school districts are facing this as well. We are in a structural budget deficit. So we have a balanced budget for 2025, but we are looking at a deficit 2026 onward. And so that's going to be a challenge that we're facing at the county level about how to handle that. You know, I know other cities in the county are also dealing with that. City of Vancouver recently had a $40+ million shortfall over their next biennium, and you know they had to do a mix of cuts and revenue, new taxes to address that shortfall. And so we're going to be we're not quite in the same position that the City of Vancouver was, but it's still a significant shortfall that we're looking at structurally, just where, you know, similar to I'm sure what a lot of you are dealing with, where cost of salaries are going up, benefits are going up, cost of supplies, inflation. It's putting a lot of pressure on municipal budgets, and we're in the same way. The county is moving in a lot of ways towards cost recovery. So a lot of the services that we do provide, so for example, permitting, our stormwater services, historically we have undercharged for those services, and we're moving towards cost recovery, where the fees that we're charging for different services are matching the actual cost of those services. And that's part of our approach to trying to get back to fiscal sustainability in the long term. We're working on the update of the comprehensive plan. That's one of the big pieces, and we'll hear a little bit more about that from Jenna and Oliver and crew. And then the council is also in a little bit of a transition period right now. So Chair Medvedji and Councilor Bowerman are retiring. They're ending their service, and so we're going to have 2 new councilors coming in January. And so so there's going to be a little bit of change in leadership here at the county, and so we're looking forward to working with the new councilors and having the council move us forward. And so some of our priorities may change based on that with new councilors, but based on the council that we have right now, I just wanted to give you kind of a high-level sense of some of the priorities that the county is working on right now at the state legislative level. So one of the biggest things that we are looking at is indigent defense, and so that is public defense. If you are accused of a crime, if you're in a criminal court proceeding and you are not able to afford a lawyer, one is provided for you, Sixth Amendment. And the Washington State Supreme Court is currently considering changing caseload standards for indigent defense. So essentially cutting to about 1/3 of what public defenders are currently mandated as what they can have in terms of a caseload. And so because of that, if that does pass, that's going to triple our indigent defense costs in the county from about $7 million to over $20 million a year. And so that's going to also put some different strain on the budget. And so that's something we're watching really closely in terms of how are we going to deal with that if that's, it's an unfunded mandate essentially from the state if that ends up coming down. So that's something that we're looking at right now. We're also looking at a lot of trying to, with the state in its own budget deficit in the operating side of things, how are we going to maintain some of the transportation funding that we already have allocated? In particular, there's a lot of work that's being done on 179th Street up towards Ridgefield, kind of where the 205 I-5 interchange is. And then across the county, our Public Works Department is doing a lot of work on different roads, sidewalks, working on ADA transition across the county to make things more accessible. I know there are 2 projects happening at schools. There's a project happening in front of Hawkinson Elementary and then Truman Elementary. Both of those have sidewalk or crosswalk or flasher upgrades happening right now that we just heard about in our upcoming year's capital plan. And I believe there's probably some more projects in the works, but if you have a school in terms of, and you're not in a city, but you're maybe in the urban growth boundary, the county is going to be doing those kinds of infrastructure upgrades, and so we're working on that across the county. Another thing that we are working on is the jail and renovating our jail facility. Our jail staff is really focused on providing services in the jail to try to handle what is becoming more acute behavioral health, mental health, substance use challenges. Right now, we are really limited in the amount of space. We have a very old facility, and so we are working on what does that look like to be able to bond out for those capital needs, and then also ideally the state will come in and provide some level of support. So that's a legislative priority for us. When most of Washington State's jails were built in the 80s and early 90s, the state provided a significant amount of funding for that because that's, it's a heavy lift for local governments. Now all those jails are old, and as I'm sure you know with some of your facilities as well, renovating them or replacing them is an expensive endeavor. We're also working on improving our permitting system across the county to help streamline development, and so we'll be lobbying the legislature for some support around that. There is work that's being done, obviously, on the interstate bridge replacement, but priority of the council as well is to think long-term about other corridors as well, because as the county moves toward 750,000 people by 2050, 2 bridges across the Columbia River are probably not going to be sufficient, and so I know that's a strong emphasis of our county council as well. And then the final thing I wanted to share that's a priority for us is trying to work with the state legislature around tax leakage issues. So folks come and they shop in Oregon, and we are not capturing that sales tax revenue. And that's another area where we're a little bit unique across the state. There's no other county that has the same level of issue as we do as a border county directly across from a major city. And so, so that's something we're going to be working with the state on to see if we can get support around that. That has historically been challenging, but that has been a priority of the chair in particular to address that tax leakage issue. And so we'll be working on that as well. And so those are some of our key issues. I don't know the extent to which that is really aligning with what the schools are doing. I think most of the priorities this session that I'm seeing are, I think some of the tax-related issues are ones that impact the schools as well to a degree. And, to the extent that we can get capital funding and improve infrastructure across the county, that will hopefully improve our school systems as well. But those are really the priorities that I see and that our council has identified. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions about that or talk a little bit, but would also be interested in hearing your legislative priorities and whether there's a nexus at all with what the county is looking at. And I know we always want to support our other local schools in their efforts. And so if we can be a partner on anything, I know we would like to be from the council's perspective.
Does anybody have any questions?
Well, while you think about that, I will mention one more thing. So last spring when we met with this group, and the chair could speak to this if he were available, but I know that he had advocated. So we have a dedicated funding source that is a mental health sales tax.
I was just going to ask about that. I was trying to find it in my email.
Yeah, and so so this is a dedicated 0.1% sales tax in the county that is split between the county and the cities. But the county's portion we retain and we use partially for internal mental health and chemical dependency related services, and a portion of it we grant out to other providers and agencies to do other work in the county. And I know ESD 112 did put out a proposal that was not accepted, that was not put forward by the advisory board. And I can say that I think the ask was rather large, and I think there was just some questions from the advisory board about how the project would move forward over, because when we're asking for funding for the mental health sales tax, and I guess where I'd like to go is thinking about where we go in the future, because we still have about $4.2 million in the mental health sales tax fund for one-time use going forward. And I think a more targeted, smaller approach is potentially more likely to get funding in this next round, given that $4.2 million available. It would need to be something that's available across the county and that provides mental health, behavioral health, or chemical dependency substance use support. And typically the funding that the county provides is for 3 years at most. And so this would be if there's a program or a process that you're trying to put forward that is really getting started, right? So if there's some seed funding where 3 years of funding might then give you the ability to go after federal funds or state funds or sustainability in the long term, that's really what we can use the funding for. And I would also say that if that's something that you're interested in, would welcome you to contact myself, contact our community services department. I can put you in touch with the right people, and they can give you a better sense of some of the requirements of the application in the RFP. Because I know that we want to get that money out into the community. We did get, we had about $17 million this last round. We ended up granting out, the county did, about $13 million of it. So that gives us about $4 million in one-time funding. We do have funds that come in annually, but I think once we clear the backlog, we're not going to be looking at huge amounts of funding available after 2026. So that $4.2 million would be available in 26, and then moving forward. But that is an opportunity that I definitely want to highlight as a way to engage with the county and potentially get some funding for any kind of discrete mental health services or programs that are available countywide, which I know can be challenging for some individual schools or districts. And so I know that's why ESD 112 had put together their proposal in the past, but yeah, so I'll leave it there. But that's some information on that, and happy to answer any questions that folks have in the moment.
So is the recommendation that it not, our understanding was in working with the ESD, that was a better option to facilitate all of the variety of needs that our districts have, because we're also unique. Am I hearing you say it is more effective to apply as individual, or for the ESD to narrow its scope of requests on all of our behalf?
I would say the latter. So because when we fund things through the county, they need to be available countywide, and so it couldn't just be students in only one school district can access these services. So I think going through ESD 112 is the right approach, doing the broader approach, but I think. And it's tough because I know they're applying on behalf of a lot of schools, and so the application wasn't necessarily broad, but my sense from listening to the deliberations of the advisory board is that a more targeted approach focused on maybe one particular issue, like just focused on counselors or adding capacity in a particular way that then maybe could, again, another thing the board likes to see is that if we provide funding, it's going to help develop a foundation that can then access and leverage other funding sources. And so to the extent that that is possible, I know that's something that the board looks for, because they don't just want to fund something that's going to happen for a couple of years and dry up. They really would like to see it, they can maximize funding by being able to leverage other sources.
So the ESD has been provided specific feedback, so they can go back and revise.
Yeah, so we did give, so when folks apply, yeah, we have all of the, they've been given essentially, anonymized feedback from all of the folks that are on the advisory board. They provide we provide a scoring rubric, and then they also provide comments within that rubric, and so we've given that to for ESD 112. Yes, there's nothing that says you can't come back. But there is a much smaller pool of money this time than was available for the last one, which I know was pretty large. I think that was about $12 million that the previous proposal was.
What's the timeline?
So that RFP will open in August. So there's a fair amount of time, and I would say, you know, spring into the early summer is a great time as you're thinking about it, putting proposals together. If there are questions you have specifically, we can help, you know, kind of work through that and frame that a little bit.
Okay.
Hey, Jordan.
The ESB has been good partners on our behalf as far as communicating with us and finding out our needs. So I guess we just wait for the next kind of point of collaboration and help narrow the scope that they can then present back. So.
Yeah, and I'm sure that I'll go back to my team and talk with them about the next RFP. And I know we met with each superintendent in Clark County before we submitted the grant to get their input on what their needs are. And, you know, as far as sustaining programs, that's what I think ESD 112 is really good at, where grants are maybe starter money, but then we find other ways to continue providing services for districts. And just after we submitted the Clark County grant, we were notified that we did receive a SAMHSA grant that's going to be providing mental health services and support for our districts throughout the ESD 112 region. But I'll take that information back to my team, and I'm sure that we'll want to submit another proposal, and maybe we can talk more about the specifics of it. If our proposal is too broad or ask for too much funding, we can talk about that.
Yeah, that sounds great, and we're always happy, like I said, to have any conversations, Mike. And you know, I'm always available if folks would like to talk. I can help link you up with the right folks to help kind of frame that out so that there's a good sense of you know, what might be competitive.
Thank you for that. I think that you know, the challenge is that we have such unique systems and needs that ESD was trying to honor that in the ask and give it as much flexibility that we could really utilize it effectively. So we'll go for another attempt, try and narrow the focus and get it through next time.
Thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions, we will move on to the comp plan for 2025.
All right, just give me a moment to get our slides situated. And were there some other questions in the room?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't ask earlier. Where did the funding go if ESD 112 didn't get it?
Yeah, so we funded, I think it was like 13 or 15 other programs across the county, including, there's permanent supportive housing, so homeless services, wraparound services, going to young adult recovery, an outreach center. That was, I think 4D Recovery is the organization that's working on that. Actually, I've got a list here. I can give you some other specifics. Girls Inc. of the Pacific Northwest, the Eureka Teen program, doing mental health services, college career readiness, Recovery Cafe, funding for additional recovery coaches for those dealing with behavioral health and substance use, Family Solutions, funding to expand their internship training program, growing the youth behavioral health therapy workforce, and renovating some of their facilities. Fosterful, expanding their Sidekicks program, assisting about 300 children per month. Friends of the Children, Southwest Washington, and they have providing support services to 16 children and their families, and that's a 12-year program, but they got the initial 3 years of that program funded. There's funding for the YWCA around support for therapy for domestic violence and sexual assault, as well as prevention and early intervention programming support for parents of young children dealing with domestic violence and neglect. Peer 360 is creating a second recovery house that will provide support to 40 women annually, including wraparound services. Community Roots Collaborative is building a 14 tiny home and 6-bed shared living space facility. It'll serve 62 people a year with housing and behavioral health case management. I mentioned the 4D recovery, a little bit of funding to Janus Youth to provide resources to youth with mental health and chemical dependency issues. The Boys and Girls Club of Southwest Washington for behavioral health support specialists, and Lifeline Connections, 1 year of support they're looking to create a veterans animal therapy program, and they thought that getting that year of support would help them get financial solvency to build Medicaid.
I love that info. Could you get that to all of us so that Jenna could send it around? We have those actual figures.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to.
That'd be helpful.
Are we talking about school district priorities too before the comprehensive plan?
Councilor Belcott, there were interest in the room to share some more school district priorities before we move on, if that's all right.
Yes, that's perfect. Go right ahead.
I know probably every school district administrator in here is anxious to share our priorities. I actually brought information on a priority that's coming up for Evergreen right now. I'll just pass it around. We have a replacement levy. We have 2 of them coming up, and this is essential for operations of our district. One of the things that we are advocating with our legislature is actually have an event this evening with Representative Monica Sonia and Senate-elect Paul Harris are coming tonight with Melissa Chbosky, and we are presenting to our community and staff ways that they can engage with their legislators and a little bit about school funding, because it is essential for us. As you know, Evergreen's gone through $60 million in cuts in the last 3 years. We have another $8 million coming up, and then it's going to continue, right? So we are asking in a replacement levy for the maximum amount. Our replacement levies are 13.5% of our operating budget. That may not mean much, but with you, if we don't pass that, it'll be $60 million in cuts. It will devastate the district if we don't pass them. I know other districts are in right along with us, right? And out of those levy funds, it's supposed to be enrichment, it's supposed to be for student programs, our athletics, our music, our arts, you name it, and it pays for staff, et cetera. We have to make up what the state doesn't fund us. And so right now, this school year, we are paying $15.4 million out of our levy funds to provide services for our special education students. Okay, special education is supposed to be fully funded by the state. It is not. Every district across the state is in that boat. We also are, you look at the prototypical school model, it allows us, a district of our size, about 22,000 students, 3.44, if I remember the number correctly, security. We have 34 security. So those 31, what is it, 31, a little under 31 of our security are funded out of our levy. Okay, so that's just one example of how underfunded schools are. Our MSOC costs have gone up significantly. Our insurance costs have gone up significantly. We spend over $5+ million a year on substitute costs. We get from the state about $500,000. Nowhere near what is needed for those costs, right? And of course, there's salary increases that were talked about this morning and earlier today. So we are really, really motivating and trying to get people to engage with our legislatures to let us know that, hey, our school system's in a crisis, and we need support, and we need help. And it can't just rely on the backs of our taxpayers that live in the district. And so that's, something that's very near and dear to my heart, obviously. I love education.
Lost sound coming from the conference room. Is everybody else experiencing that?
Yep.
Yes, I've also lost sound.
Me too.
I'll send them a message, see if they can hear me.
Michelle, when I hover over their camera, it looks like they somehow have accidentally muted themselves.
Ah, yeah, I see that too. And I'm not seeing a chat option, at least on my end anyway. I'm looking.
I'm going to raise my hand just to try and, if somebody's paying attention.
Yeah. Let's see.
Maybe jump up and down, Chris. Get up and down from your chair.
I'm holding up. I'm like, no sound, no sound. See if they see that. Yeah, so it's like they didn't give any of us admin privileges.
I think we're back. Folks online, can you hear us again?
Now we were off, we couldn't hear you for the last 5 minutes, and there's no chat capability in this meeting, so we couldn't, none of us could send a message.
So sorry. We saw the email starting to come through, so thank you for those, and our apologies. Folks in the room, do you want to do a quick recap of the past couple minutes?
The last thing is that they heard, so I want to.
Yeah, Councilor Belcott, did you hear Christine Maloney with the Evergreen School District talking about their priorities?
Yeah, I heard her to the point where they were talking about the levy and relying, I believe, on security and that they were experiencing extensive cuts, and then that's all I heard, and then it went blank.
I think it was all the way through. Did you pass it off to somebody?
To Asha.
Yeah, to Asha.
Yeah, I think that's
Okay.
where we at that point we dropped online sound.
Okay, all right, so Asha.
I'm not sure I added a whole lot other than to say, Christine said it well, and as a district that is operating without a levy, as you know, that we had a double levy failure, there is no security. You know, we don't have any opportunities for that. We're down counseling staff. We are significantly underfunded in sped staffing. When we're trying to protect learning in the classroom, but you don't have the support of the levy funds, you get closer to cutting into those classroom areas, and it's had a significant impact on us. And so just echoing that, you know, our priorities around MSOCs, special education, those are huge, would be tremendously helpful. And access to these kinds of grants for mental health are significant. We don't have nearly enough counselors, and especially without levy funds.
Right.
So, yeah, just echoing, there's need. We appreciate partnership and opportunities at grants. That matters a lot.
Yeah, it does.
So we're hoping for the next round.
Okay, all right. I think that catches those of you up online on what we missed. Again, so sorry. But I guess, yeah, anyone else online? Any additional priorities? I don't know,
Well,
Mr. Chair?
I would just like to add and kind of reinforce what's already been said. You know, when the state doesn't fully fund, we'll say, special education, statewide, there's $500 million coming out of local levies just to fund special education. And those districts that have, you know, more high need students are getting hurt the worst. And then you have a district like Woodland who had the double levy failure. You know, where does that money come from? The MSOC money, insurance costs alone over since 2020 have went up by 60%. And the state has not kept up with funding for any of the MSOC type of programs, fuel, food, insurance, that sort of thing. And so, you know, the local levies are limited. And when they're called upon to provide these basic education services, then, you know, that money has to come from somewhere, be it staff cuts, be it reduction in student programs. And so it really is a domino effect. And all of our districts are facing that. It's a challenge.
Can I go back? I'm new to this and I'm trying to figure out how it works, and luckily there's only 2 meetings a year, so I won't get uninvited. Jordan, you mentioned that with the grant money that, based on Asha's question, it was encouraged that all districts partnered and went through USD 112 to submit the proposal. With all those groups that you listed off, none of them were school districts, and I'm assuming it's because they were encouraged to go through ESD 112. But if ESD 112's proposal isn't approved, then that means no school districts get funding. So based on that, wouldn't it make more sense for school districts to individually submit a proposal?
So it potentially could be, but the problem is so we are limited with if we're going to fund something through the mental health sales tax through the county, it has to be available to county residents. And so if it's something that like just Battleground is doing, then by its nature, it's not necessarily going to be available to all residents, or there's no way, you know, for other people outside of Battleground to access those services. And so if there was a program that you were proposing that was available, you know, was maybe hosted at through the Battleground district, but like anyone could attend, or there's a way that other folks in the county could potentially have access, then that might be a way to do it. And if you have a specific program or something in mind, we'd be happy to have follow-up conversations about we can look at the RCW and kind of our regulations and see if there's something that fits in a proposal. I'd be happy to have a conversation with anyone about that. But due to that challenge of needing to serve residents countywide, it could be challenging for any individual school or district to craft a proposal.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Councilor Belknap, I'm not seeing anyone else raising their hand in the room. I am not seeing any online hands for any additional school districts to speak about priorities or share anything else.
I have a question actually for Evergreen. Did you say, because you were cutting out and then it went dead for a while. How many officers did you say are security? Is it officers or security that are funded by your levy?
Security, and we're funded 3.44, I believe is what it is, for the prototypical school model, and we have 34.
Oh, 34. So,
Yeah.
didn't Evergreen not have or wasn't there something going on? I thought there was no security for a while.
We used to have, a number of years ago, school resource officers, and then due to staffing and budget issues, not only with Evergreen, but also with the county and the city, as those positions went away, and we're trying to get some back, but those are not funded by the state.
Okay, how were the SROs funded before?
Through levy funds.
Okay. And because I'm not in the Law and Justice board, but are you negotiating something with CCSO to provide that?
We are in the works. We proposed a school liaison officer right now. So we proposed that. We're working through the job description for that, but that is not coming out of the state funding, and we also have to get staffing for it.
Got it. Okay, thank you. That was my only question. Right, are there any other questions online? See any? All right, well, then we will move on to the comprehensive plan for 2025. Can't even believe it.
Great. That is blurry. Hold on, let me try to fix that so there's no way. Okay, that's weird. I'm going to keep this like this because that seems more clear. This is Jenna Kay again with Clark County Community Planning, and myself and my colleague Amy Wooten here, we were going to give an update on the comprehensive plan update. Also, Community Planning Director Oliver Orgiaco is in the audience and can help field questions that you may have if we aren't able to answer them. While this isn't usually our main topic in the fall, we are in the midst of updating the comprehensive plan, so I wanted to give an update and have some time to coordinate on anything needed. So we'll get right into it. And for those of you in the room, we did print this out. It's a little hard to see on the screen in here. But this is the high-level schedule of the comprehensive plan update process, and we have 4 main phases. The first is project initiation. That started back in early 2023. The second phase is shape the plan. The third phase is review and refine the plan, and then the fourth phase is the adoption process. And which will end with the County Council considering a proposed updated comprehensive plan. And we have a mandatory due date by the state to be done with this update by the end of December 2025. So we have about a year to finish this update. And you know, throughout the entire process, there's a series of decisions that get made along the way that give staff direction before we move on to our next step. So the county council, the things that have checks on them are decisions that have been made. So, and I'll look at a few of those items in a moment, but the council, for instance, has selected like the amount of population we are planning for the next 20 years. And we are planning for the years 2025 to 2045. That's the 20-year period that we are planning for. Okay, the next slide. I'm not going to go through all the details in here, but if anyone has questions on specific steps, we are glad to provide more information. But in terms of just at a really high level, so we're planning for 20 years until 2045. We are planning for a total of about 718,000 people in the county, which that's almost 200,000 more people than are in the county today. So that's a lot more people. In terms of jobs, we are planning for almost 270,000 jobs, which is about, I think, 80 to 90,000 more jobs than currently exist in the county today. So that's big picture what we are working on, and those numbers have been divvied up between the county and the cities, so everyone knows how many people and housing units and number of jobs each jurisdiction is planning for, so that when we put the puzzle back together, it will equal those numbers. And then in terms of, you know, part of our update is, you know, updating things based on new population projections, but it's also, we have to reflect any new major legislative changes that affect planning. And the two big things that have changed in the past couple of years relate to housing and climate change. And so we have just new requirements that we need to fold into this planning process. So that's where we expect, you know, that's where most of staff work is focused on in terms of our update as well. Okay, so that's my very general background, and then I want to shift to, so what about the schools, and how do the school districts intersect with this plan? Okay, so the first way that the school districts intersect the plan is with your capital facility plans. And so each school district capital facility plans gets adopted by reference into the comprehensive plans of the jurisdictions you intersect with. So I think the county intersects with every district, and then you know which cities you also intersect with. And so in terms of the schedule of how this will work with our overarching schedule is we are looking for updated 6-year capital facility plans from the school district by the summer sometime. That gives us then enough time to review to a staff report and then bring it to the Planning Commission and County Council by the end of 2025. So that's how we will fold it into the process. So we will coordinate with Leanne Bremer, you know, on sort of the details around that for you all. And then, let's see, the other piece is when we do this planning process, you know, right now we're working towards getting some possible land use alternatives, and eventually we'll end up with a preferred alternative of land use. And once we get to that point, that's when we update the county's capital facilities plan. And so that's looking at 20-year out estimates on capital facility needs. And so we will be looking to the school district for some very high level, think 20 years out estimates on that you all can sort of give us as inputs to fold into the big picture capital facilities planning. So we're expecting to have a preferred alternative sometime this summer. So the ask would come out probably late in the summer for some additional input from the school districts to help with that very big picture, very high level rough estimates related to that. And then, like I said, all of that will fold into the Planning Commission and County Council hearings that need to happen before the end of next year. So any questions about capital facilities planning before we go on to the next topic?
Jenna, this is Leanne Bremer. Can I clarify something for you on this slide?
Yeah.
So 6 of the Clark County school districts had their capital facilities plans adopted by the county last July 2023. So based on earlier conversations I've had with Oliver, it was their choice whether they wanted to update.
Oh, just muted. Leanne, I'm going to unmute you. Somehow we lost you for a moment.
Oh, did you hear any of that, or do I need to start over?
If you said something about a previous conversation with Oliver, and then we lost you.
Okay. So 6 school districts had their capital facilities plans adopted just last year, July 2023, and their updated 6-year plans. And in conversations with Oliver earlier this year, it was optional for them to update their plans again in this cycle of your periodic update in 2025. I think some districts some of those 6 districts are considering whether they want to update their plans. But for sure, 4 school districts have to update their plans, and that's Evergreen, Hawkinson, La Center, and Woodland. So those will definitely be coming to the county next spring. And so I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, wonderful. And Leanne, I can coordinate with you. I think we might just need a letter or something to confirm that, well, the school districts want to readopt essentially their existing plans for those who don't want to update for our records, something like that, but we can coordinate on those.
I think
details
that's
offline.
a very good idea. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Great. All right. Any other questions, comments, clarifications on capital facilities planning? Okay, well then I'm going to pass it to Amy here, who's going to talk about the schools element in our comprehensive plan.
Hi, Amy Wooten with Clark County Community Planning. Sorry, switching gears. We have several new faces in this group this year, so some of you may not know that the county's comprehensive plan has a schools element or a chapter in it. It's an optional element in our comprehensive plan, and the school districts were very involved in its original development. The chapter includes background information on schools in the county, as well as establishing goals and policies related to schools and growth management, especially around facility needs. As part of the periodic update process, staff forwarded a copy of the schools chapter to each of the districts, and I thank you all for participating and responding to me, and especially I'm going to give a shout out to Leanne Bremer because her help was so welcome. Based on the feedback that we got, staff reviewed all of that and revised the chapter, incorporating as much of the comments as we could that we received. The comments that aren't reflected in the revised document are included in the printouts that you have kind of in a sidebar, so that you know that we did look at them and we did consider them. I'm hoping that each of the districts can just give the revised copy another good look and maybe have some responses to staff by next Friday, so that we can get the changes kind of finalized and stop by Planning Commission and Council for approval next year. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Does any updates or suggestions send them to you?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is Jenna. I will add, we flagged the couple of things we didn't end up folding in. I don't think we have any strong feelings about that, so if you have any, feel free to offer a suggestion if we didn't quite figure out how to incorporate it. So, yeah, we look forward to your feedback. All right, I think Councilor Belcott, that's what we had for the update related to the comp plan. So I think I'll pull up the agenda. Give me 1 minute while I get back to it. Okay.
right. Are there any other questions online or in the room that we didn't cover or are on your mind?
Hello, this is Steve Marshall from Hawkinson. I'm sitting here with Aaron Villanueva, who's our Business Services Director. And what we heard regarding the comprehensive growth plans, or facility plans, is that they were going to be like not updated, just kind of reapproved. And we do have some updates that we plan on making to our facilities plan this spring. And so I just wanted to verify if I misheard that, or that can be accommodated. So that was just a clarification. I want to use this.
Does it need to be adjusted from your submission from July, Steve?
Sorry, I'm looking to Aaron.
I
Aaron says we didn't submit anything in July. I think I was just verifying that. I think when I went down to the county in 2019, that it wasn't going to be some kind of extension of that plan. It was going to be one that reflected where we are in 2025 and where we expect to be in 2031.
Got it. Leanne, did you, since I missed the last meeting, I'm going to have to defer to you. Did you submit that information on behalf of all the districts?
So we're talking about Hawkinson School District wanting to submit an updated capital facilities plan. Is that right, Steve?
Right. I mean, but I think all schools are in that same position because now the 6-year cycle has passed, and so they're looking to update the plans. And I was just
actually there's only four districts, and you're one of them that absolutely needs to update your plan.
Okay.
And yeah, and that's in the works. Definitely.
All right, that was it. And
Okay.
I'm sorry if that was confusing in any way, but I was confused because I had heard that there weren't going to be any updates, but except for those 4 schools, and we are one of those 4 schools.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, that's great. This is what the Q&A question session is for. So thank you. I just learned something. So thank you so much. Right. Well, if we don't have, we have any more questions, comments, anything? All right. So I will hand it up for a wrap up. Jenna?
Okay. Yeah, so again, we know a lot of you are new to this group, but one thing we like to do each year is to check in to see if these meetings are useful. And so just a little bit of history. The group's been around for, a handful of years now and has settled into a meeting twice per year schedule where the spring is more focused on updates on what's happening with development and planning, and then the fall has been more focused on legislative priorities going into the upcoming legislative session, and then anything else that's relevant people can bring up. So for instance, the comp plan is happening now, so we're giving you updates when we meet with you. And so I guess the question for the group is, does twice per year and those topics seem useful? And if you don't know that yet, you can let us know later if you have an opinion on it. But just wanted to check before we, plan to do the same thing next year, if that seems okay, or if anyone wants to suggest some changes to that.
Works for me. I appreciate the introduction you gave at the beginning, just, what the county does in relation to what we do and how we can think about partnering with one another, and so it works for us.
I agree. My question would be, is 2 meetings a year adequate? I mean, this is a big deal, and I'm just surprised to get by with 2 meetings a year. I would think at least you'd have quarterly meetings, but maybe there's just so much going on in your schools that you don't. There's 3 schools in my district, and there's stuff going on with all of them all the time, and it just seems to me there have to be more issues than this is addressed. But I'll check with Bridget. I'll read her notes and look again at the things Jenna sent. But just, I don't know. would more meetings be helpful to you? Or would more meetings just be too much of a pain in the neck and take too much of your time? Well, you've got to come a long way. That's not, you know.
Well, I will say that, I mean, Woodland always is appreciative to be included because we are part of Clark County and oftentimes forgotten. And so we're just grateful to be here. And I think, you know, as I have a better understanding, probably I could partner better. I don't know what the next meeting would be about yet. So that's probably where I'm sitting quietly in that is space is still understanding what that partnership looks like. And then when that next meeting would make sense to be. I appreciate that there's areas of safety and mental health that are priorities for the county. Those are certainly priorities for us in Woodland. And I think that there are efforts to collaborate on that have surfaced that we know what to do with this next step. So I think maybe the next meeting in the spring, it might be that we have a clearer picture of if we need more meetings. Before spring, I probably wouldn't know, but I'd be very helpful myself beyond that.
Well, and I guess I'll just jump in and offer just as a perspective, not to necessarily advocate against more time together, but I don't want it to be lost that I think all of us work very actively with the county treasurer's office when we have a funding issue, with the Clark County Sheriff's Office, whether it's a localized problem or a systemic opportunity. Certainly elections for folks like Christina and Vancouver and probably others that are gearing up for an election. And so this isn't the extent of our partnership and the extent of our sharing of information. We certainly have those day-to-day, week-to-week ongoing partnerships that we really appreciate, but they're kind of as needed with the dedicated staff that are specialists in those areas.
Okay. Well, we will work on scheduling meetings for next year, but just please know we are totally open to your ideas. If you do find additional meetings would be helpful or different topics would be helpful, but we also don't want to create any redundancy with other meetings that you have, you know, with other forums. So you'll see calendar scheduling in the works early next year. So I think that's all we have. Councilor Belcott.
We're so efficient.
Efficient. And since there's no other questions, we are officially adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Yep.